Something inside you has already stopped believing in the life you are living, even though everything around you still looks fine. Not because anything is wrong on the surface, but because the things that once lifted you no longer reach you. The music that once stirred something deep now feels distant. Conversations that once gave warmth feel hollow. The routines that once gave shape to your life now feel like quiet obligations you carry without joy. You are not broken, you are not ungrateful, and you are not losing your soul. You are standing at a real threshold inside yourself. Most people think this state means something is wrong with them. They try to fix it quickly. They chase stronger stimulation. They scroll more, plan more, buy more, change more. They look for the old feeling in new places. But what you are experiencing is not the loss of pleasure. It is the end of a chapter of identity. There is a season in life when the things that formed you can no longer feed you. The hobbies, friendships, dreams, and even prayers that once sustained you begin to feel thin. Not because they were false, because you have outgrown the version of yourself that needed them in that form. This moment often arrives quietly. No dramatic crisis, no explosion, just a soft withdrawal of color from the world. You still function, you still smile when needed, you still keep going. But inside, something has shifted. The soul has stopped accepting substitutes. The world will tell you that this is depression, or boredom, or burnout alone. Those may be present, but they are not the root. The root is that your inner structure is reorganizing. When growth happens at depth, pleasure temporarily disconnects from the surface of life. The nervous system goes neutral. Old rewards lose their charge. New ones have not yet revealed themselves. This is not punishment, it is preparation. In spiritual language, this is called the stripping. In psychological language, it is the collapse of old identity reinforcement. In lived human experience, it feels like emptiness. The mistake many people make is trying to force joy back into the old containers. They revisit old places, old habits, old people, hoping something will spark again. When it does not, they panic. They assume something is broken. They start chasing intensity, but intensity is not depth, and stimulation is not meaning. What you are losing is not happiness. You are losing the small version of happiness that once fit the old version of you. There comes a time when the soul no longer accepts shallow nourishment. It demands something truer, slower, heavier, more real. The heart becomes allergic to distraction. The mind grows tired of noise. The body rejects what it once tolerated. Even faith begins to change its voice. What once felt comforting now feels incomplete. What once felt certain now feels too small. This is the quiet labor of becoming someone new. And it is lonely, because the world around you often does not recognize this phase. People will suggest vacations, hobbies, therapy, new goals, new routines. Some of these may help stabilize you, but none of them will touch the core of what is happening. You are not losing interest in life. You are losing alignment with a former self. There is grief in this, real grief, because the old joys were real, the old passions were real, the old dreams were real, and now they feel like photographs from another life. You remember the warmth, you remember the excitement, you remember the way your chest used to open when you imagined certain futures. But when you reach for them now, your hand passes through air. That hurts. So the mind tries to explain it away. Maybe I am unmotivated. Maybe I am ungrateful. Maybe I am broken. Maybe I need to fix myself. But the deeper truth is simpler and more difficult to accept. You are growing out of your old emotional home. Every person who matures deeply experiences this season. It is the passage between identities. The old self cannot go forward. The new self has not fully arrived, so you stand in the corridor between them. And corridors are not designed for comfort, they are designed for transition. In this space, joy becomes quiet, meaning becomes hidden. God feels distant, life feels paused, but something is being formed. There is a wisdom in the loss of enjoyment. It prevents you from clinging. It loosens your grip on what no longer fits. It gently pushes you out of rooms you have spiritually outgrown. You begin to notice that the things that still move you are different now. Not louder, deeper. A certain kind of silence, a certain kind of conversation, a certain kind of presence. You find yourself craving stillness instead of stimulation, truth instead of reassurance, depth instead of escape. Your inner world is changing its language. And because of that, the old pleasures feel like speaking a dialect you no longer fully understand. This does not mean you will never feel joy again. It means your joy is being rebuilt from the inside out. The foundation is shifting. The architecture of your soul is being redesigned. That process always feels like loss before it feels like life. Do not rush this season. Do not numb it. Do not label it as failure. Let it do its quiet work. Let the old self loosen its grip. Let the new self gather its shape in the unseen. You are not empty. You are between forms. And in this narrow space between who you were and who you are becoming, something holy is taking place. There is a hidden pressure in this season that few people speak about. You are expected to continue living as if nothing inside you has changed, to show up, to perform, to respond with the same enthusiasm. But the inner current has shifted direction, and you feel the tension every day. The world pulls you forward using old ropes that no longer reach your heart. This is why fatigue deepens. Not because you are doing too much, but because you are doing it without resonance. When the soul outgrows its environment, everything begins to feel heavier. Tasks take more energy. Conversations drain faster. Even rest feels incomplete. You sleep, but you do not quite recover. You laugh, but the laughter does not fully land. You succeed, but the satisfaction dissolves quickly. You start to sense that your old motivations no longer work. Fear no longer pushes you. Praise no longer fills you. Approval no longer stabilizes you. The rewards that once guided your decisions have lost their power. This can feel frightening because motivation has been your compass for years. When it fades, you feel lost. But what is actually happening is that your inner guidance system is upgrading. External incentives are being replaced by internal alignment. You are being trained to move from meaning, not momentum, from truth, not tension, from presence, not pressure. This transition often triggers quiet anxiety. The old map is gone, but the new one has not yet fully appeared. You still have responsibilities. You still have people depending on you. You still have a life to maintain. But you no longer feel carried by the old emotional engine. So you begin to slow. Without choosing to, you start to withdraw from unnecessary noise. You decline invitations. You leave earlier. You speak less. You observe more. The nervous system is conserving energy for a deeper reconstruction. At the same time, you become strangely sensitive. Certain words land harder. Certain moments cut deeper. You notice suffering more. You feel the weight of existence more honestly. It is as if the armor you once wore has softened. The world touches you directly now. This sensitivity is not weakness. It is the opening of perception. In this phase, many people feel as if God has gone silent. The prayers feel dry. The sense of presence feels distant. The old spiritual emotions no longer arrive on command. But this is not abandonment, it is maturation. When the child no longer needs constant reassurance, The parent steps back so the child can learn to stand. In the same way, your spiritual life is being taught to move from feeling into faith, from emotional comfort into quiet trust, from seeking signs into learning to listen. This is the work of the inner desert. Every soul that grows passes through it. You are learning to live without the training wheels of constant pleasure, without the sugar of immediate reward, without the noise that once kept you distracted from your own depth. This is not a dark night. It is the deepening of sight. The reason you no longer enjoy what once made you happy is because your capacity for joy is expanding. The small joys cannot hold the new weight of your being. They collapse under it. Soon your joy will return, but it will return in a different form. Quieter, stronger, more stable, less dependent on circumstances, less vulnerable to loss. You will begin to notice moments that feel real again. A slow walk at dusk, a conversation that opens something true, a simple prayer that steadies your chest, a silence that feels alive instead of empty. These are the first signals of your new alignment. Do not rush the reconstruction. Let the nervous system settle into its new configuration. Let the heart recalibrate its desires. Let the mind release the old patterns of chasing. This season is not asking you to fix yourself. It is asking you to remain with yourself. The old life is loosening its grip. The new life is not yet fully visible. You are being held in the in-between. And that space, though uncomfortable, is where the most honest transformation occurs. There is a quiet strength forming in you now. You may not recognize it yet, because it does not announce itself the way the old joys did. It does not arrive with excitement or rush or noise. It comes with steadiness, with gravity, with an unshakable sense that you are standing on something real for the first time in your life. This is what happens when the soul finishes shedding its borrowed motivations and begins living from its own center. The loss of enjoyment was not the loss of life. It was the end of imitation. For many years, much of what you pursued was shaped by survival, expectation, adaptation, and belonging. Those forces are not wrong. They carried you as far as they could. But there comes a point where the soul demands authorship, where you are no longer willing to live from inherited scripts or external approval, where something inside you says, quietly but firmly, I will no longer build my life on what does not belong to me. This is where real adulthood begins, not the kind marked by age or responsibility, but the kind marked by inner authority. As this authority awakens, you become less reactive, less dramatic, less pulled by urgency. You begin to move slower, but with greater precision. You choose more carefully. You speak more deliberately. You tolerate less falsehood. You require more truth. And because of this, the world feels different. You are no longer easily impressed. You are no longer easily entertained. You are no longer easily persuaded. This is not cynicism. It is clarity. Your nervous system has learned the difference between noise and nourishment. What replaces your old happiness is not constant pleasure, but quiet coherence. A sense of being gathered inside yourself. A feeling of standing in your own life instead of chasing it. A new kind of peace that does not depend on circumstances lining up perfectly. You will still laugh. You will still enjoy beauty. You will still feel excitement. But those experiences will no longer be the foundation of your stability. They will be expressions of it. And this is the great shift. Because when joy is no longer the engine, but the fruit, you become unshakable. This is also the point where many people finally feel at home in God. Not in emotion, not in performance, not in ritual alone, but in presence. In the steady awareness that they are seen, known, guided, even when nothing feels dramatic or intense. Faith becomes quieter here, stronger, less dependent on signs, more anchored in trust. If you stay with this season, if you do not abandon yourself in the discomfort, you will emerge with a depth that few ever reach. You will recognize the false promises of the world instantly. You will no longer chase happiness. You will carry meaning, and meaning generates its own form of joy. The person you are becoming will not miss the old pleasures, not because they were wrong, but because they were temporary. The new life will be rooted in something that does not fade with circumstance. So if you no longer enjoy what once made you happy, do not be afraid. You are not losing your capacity for life. You are stepping into its center. Walk in the light, even on the days it feels distant.